The sky over what used to be downtown Chicago is the color of a fresh bruise. Purple-black clouds hang low, pregnant with ash and smoke from fires that have been burning for 3 days straight. The Invincible War is over, but Earth looks like it lost. Mark Grayson floats 200 feet above the rubble. Below him, emergency crews pull bodies from collapsed buildings. Some of the bodies are still warm. Most aren't. He stopped counting how many, stopped trying to remember their faces. If he starts counting, if he starts remembering, he'll never stop screaming. His costume is shredded. Blood, his blood, their blood, everyone's blood, has dried into the fabric until he can't tell where the suit ends and the wounds begin. His left eye is swollen half shut. 3 ribs are cracked. His right shoulder dislocated itself twice during the fight, and he had to pop it back in both times while evil versions of himself tried to kill him. The casualties are devastating. Hundreds dead, thousands injured. Heroes fallen in combat against the alternate Invincibles. Rex Splode died during the final battle, not in a rescue operation, but fighting 3 alternate Marks at once, buying time for civilians to evacuate. Mark watched him fall, watched him choose to stand his ground when he could have run. Eve is alive, barely. She's recovering in a GDA medical facility with injuries that should have killed her. Mark visited her yesterday. She could barely speak through the tubes and bandages. She told him it wasn't his fault. She's wrong. Mark. He doesn't turn, doesn't acknowledge. He knows that voice. Adam, Eve, except it's not Eve in the medical bay. This is Eve on her feet, flying up to meet him. She's moving slowly, carefully, like every movement hurts. It probably does. Eve, you should be resting. So should you. She hovers beside him. Her costume is new, conjured from atoms she rearranged. The old one was destroyed. You haven't slept in 3 days. Under the rubble. Calling for help. The rescue teams are working as fast as they can. It's not fast enough. Eve reaches out, puts her hand on his shoulder. Mark flinches, not from pain, from the contact, from the reminder that he's still alive when so many others aren't. Mark, look at me. He doesn't want to, doesn't want her to see what he's become. But he turns anyway, meets her eyes. We won, Eve says. We stopped them. It's over. Mark opens his mouth to respond, to explain that this is just the beginning, that the Viltrumite Empire is still out there, that his father's betrayal set events in motion that won't stop until everyone he loves is dead. But he doesn't get the chance. The sky darkens, not the natural darkness of storm clouds. This is something else, something deliberate. The temperature drops 15 degrees in 3 seconds. People on the ground look up. Some of them scream, some of them run. The smart ones do both. Mark knows what this is before he sees it, has dreaded this moment for months. He wanted more time, time to train, time to prepare, time to become strong enough to survive what's coming. He didn't get it. The shape descends from the upper atmosphere like a meteor wrapped in purpose. It's moving fast, Mach 3, maybe Mach 4, but slowing as it approaches. Controlled descent. Deliberate, this isn't an attack. It's an announcement. The shape resolves into a figure, humanoid, massive. 7 feet tall, shoulders like a bull, arms thicker than Mark's torso, white hair, white mustache, scars crisscrossing every visible inch of skin, one eye milky and dead, the other burning with something Mark recognizes. Contempt, the figure hits the ground 100 yards from where Mark and Eve are hovering. The impact craters the asphalt, sends spiderweb cracks radiating outward for 50 feet. Cars parked nearby flip over from the shockwave. Alarms start screaming. The figure stands slowly. Dust and debris cascade off his armor. He's wearing Viltrumite battle dress, red and white, trimmed with gold. Mark recognizes the design. Officer class, high ranking, the kind of Viltrumite who doesn't just conquer planets. He ends civilizations. The figure's right arm is wrong, not flesh, metal, a prosthetic from shoulder to fingertips, crude but functional. Hydraulic joints, steel plating. It looks like something ripped from a warship and bolted onto flesh. Mark's stomach drops. He knows this Viltrumite, knows the scars, knows the dead eye, knows the prosthetic arm and exactly how he lost the original. Conquest, the old Viltrumite surveys the destruction around him, takes in the burning buildings, the corpses, the terrified humans scrambling for cover. His lip curls. Pathetic, his voice carries. Deep. Resonant, the kind of voice that's given orders to armies. that sentenced entire species to extinction. Conquest's working eye finds Mark. Locks on. The contempt intensifies. I am Conquest. He says it like a proclamation. Like the words themselves have weight. I have conquered 473 worlds across 17 galaxies. I have ended species whose names you cannot pronounce. I have turned civilizations older than your sun into ash and memory. He takes a step forward. The ground cracks under his weight. Your father was sent to this planet with a simple mission: conquer Earth for the Viltrumite Empire. Nolan Grayson failed, betrayed his people, abandoned his duty for sentiment and weakness. Another step. Mark can feel the vibration through the air, can hear rubble shifting in the crater Conquest made. You, boy, were given a chance to succeed where he failed, to prove that Nolan's bloodline could still serve the Empire, to take this world and present it to Grand Regent Thrag as tribute. Conquest gestures at the ruins, at the bodies, at the smoke and fire and devastation. But I see only failure. I see a planet ravaged not by conquest, but by incompetence. I see a half-breed child who cannot even protect his own people, much less rule them. He stops, 20 yards away, close enough that Mark can see the details. The scar tissue around the dead eye, the way the prosthetic arm whirs and clicks with each movement, the absolute certainty in his expression. Nolan Grayson's fate is unknown to you, Conquest says. Perhaps dead, perhaps imprisoned, perhaps suffering as he deserves for his betrayal. Mark's jaw tightens. He doesn't know, has no way to know. In the original timeline, he won't learn the truth for months. You are what remains of his line, the final chance for his bloodline to redeem itself. Conquest's hand moves, points, not at Mark, at Eve, at a group of civilians huddled behind an overturned bus, at Oliver, Mark's half-brother, physically 9 years old, but chronologically less than 2 years, peeking out from behind debris in his Kid Omni-Man costume. You have one choice, boy. Submit this world to the Viltrumite Empire. Kneel before me and swear fealty to Grand Regent Thrag, or I will slaughter every living thing on this planet, starting with... Mark doesn't move, doesn't speak, but something in his eyes changes. It's not dramatic, not obvious, just a shift, a fundamental alteration in the way he's looking at Conquest. One moment, Mark is an exhausted teenager on the edge of collapse. The next, he's something else. The weight hits him all at once. 500 years of memory cascading into an 18-year-old brain. Every battle, every loss, every victory, every moment from a future that hasn't happened yet but feels more real than the ground beneath his feet. He remembers Conquest, remembers their first fight. This fight, the one about to happen, where Conquest broke him, shattered his ribs, ruptured his organs, nearly killed him, remembers Eve unlocking her powers to save him, remembers months of recovery. He remembers their second fight. Years later, during the Viltrumite War, Conquest returned, rebuilt, enhanced. That fight nearly killed Mark too. Would have killed him if he hadn't been willing to strangle Conquest with his own intestines hanging out of his body. He remembers Thrag, remembers fighting him in the sun's core, remembers ripping the Grand Regent's throat out with his teeth. He remembers 500 years as Emperor, 500 years of ruling the Viltrumite Empire, 500 years of knowledge and experience and combat mastery compressed into a brain that shouldn't be able to hold it. But it does. Mark blinks. When his eyes open, they're different. Colder. Older. The eyes of someone who's killed thousands and stopped counting centuries ago. A smile spreads across his face. Slow. Deliberate. Wrong. This isn't the smile of a teenager. This is the smile of an apex predator recognizing prey. Conquest, Mark says. His voice is different too. Calm. Almost amused. You're early. Conquest pauses. The contempt in his expression flickers. Just for a microsecond. Replaced by something that might be confusion. What? It's not a question. It's a statement of incomprehension. Mark's smile widens. Eve, Oliver, step back. Mark, what are you? I said step back. Mark doesn't look at her, doesn't break eye contact with Conquest. His voice isn't angry, isn't scared. It's certain, absolute. This won't take long. Mark, Eve. Now he looks at her, and whatever she sees in his eyes makes her let go, makes her grab Oliver and fly backward 20 yards. 30, 50. Mark rises, slow, deliberate, floats up until he's eye level with Conquest. The old Viltrumite watches him approach. The confusion is gone, replaced by that familiar contempt. But there's something else now, too. Something Conquest doesn't recognize because he's never felt it before. Uncertainty. Mark hovers 5 yards away, studies Conquest like a scientist examining a specimen. Takes in every detail. The scars, the prosthetic, the way Conquest favors his left side, the way his right eye doesn't track quite right, the micro-expressions that telegraph his next move before he makes it. Your right arm, Mark says conversationally. Rodnars tore it off during the Scourge crisis. You were weakened by the virus, got careless. 3 of them attacked you in the Vegas system. You killed 2, but the third one, a female if I remember correctly, got hold of your arm and ripped it clean off before you crushed her skull. Conquest goes very still. The scar across your eye. Same fight. The female's claws, you wear it like a trophy, but it's actually a reminder of your failure. You're slower on your right side now. Compensate with your left. Overextend on vertical attacks because your depth perception is compromised. Mark tilts his head, studying, calculating. The prosthetic has a 3-second delay when you transition from crushing grip to striking. The hydraulics can't match Viltrumite nerve response time. You've trained yourself to work around it, but it's still there. A weakness, one of many. He floats closer. Conquest doesn't move, doesn't speak. He's trying to process what he's hearing, trying to understand how this child knows things that no one outside the Empire should know. Things that Conquest himself has never told anyone. I've studied how you fight for centuries, Mark continues. His voice is soft now, almost gentle. I know every weakness in your stance, every tell in your movement, every flaw in your technique. I've fought you before, Conquest. Twice. Beat you once. Nearly died the other time. Mark stops, 3 feet away, close enough to touch, close enough to kill. But that was in another timeline. In this one, I'm going to do something different. Conquest's face is pale, his working eye wide. What are you? Mark's smile disappears. His expression goes flat, empty. The face of someone who's seen civilizations rise and fall and stopped caring about the difference. I'm the end of your story. Conquest explodes forward. No warning, no telegraphing, pure Viltrumite combat reflex honed over 5,000 years. His prosthetic arm swings in a haymaker that could shatter a battleship's hull. The air screams. Sonic boom ripples outward. Mark catches the punch. Not with effort, not with strain, just catches it. His hand closes around Conquest's metal wrist at the exact microsecond of maximum momentum, uses the force against itself, twists. The prosthetic's connection socket dislocates with a grinding shriek of tortured metal. Conquest bellows, yanks his arm back. The prosthetic is still attached, but barely, hanging at an angle that's anatomically wrong. Too much wind-up, Mark says clinically. Too much telegraphing. You rely on intimidation to make opponents freeze. Doesn't work when they've seen this exact punch 47 times before. Conquest roars, launches himself forward in a combination attack. Left hook, right cross with the damaged prosthetic. Knee strike aimed at Mark's solar plexus. Headbutt to follow through. Mark weaves through it like water. Slips the hook by millimeters. Parries the cross with his forearm, redirecting the force rather than blocking it. Catches the knee, twists Conquest's leg, throws off his balance. And when the headbutt comes, when Conquest commits his full weight to the strike, Mark drops his head forward at the last instant. Their skulls collide. But Mark aimed, targeted the exact point where the Ragnar's claws opened Conquest's forehead 5,000 years ago, where the scar tissue never fully healed, where the Scourge virus left microfractures in the bone that Conquest has been compensating for since before Earth had written language. Conquest staggers backward. His vision swims. The world tilts. He's fought for millennia without this happening, without feeling his equilibrium disrupted, without experiencing the vertigo of a perfectly placed strike to a weakness he didn't know could still hurt. Mark advances, not rushing, not attacking, just walking forward through the air with the patient inevitability of entropy. The scar tissue on your frontal lobe never fully healed, Mark says. Still clinical, still detached. The Scourge virus left micro-fractures in your skull. Impacts there cause short-term equilibrium disruption. You've been compensating for 3,000 years, but you can't compensate when someone targets it. Conquest shakes his head, clears his vision. The rage that replaces confusion is primal. ancient. This is the conquest that has conquered 473 worlds, that has never failed, that has killed more beings than currently exist on Earth. He stops grandstanding, stops underestimating. This child, this half-breed abomination, knows too much, is too dangerous, needs to die immediately. Conquest launches into pure Viltrumite combat doctrine. Aerial grapple, get the opponent into a crushing hold, squeeze until ribs splinter and organs rupture. It's how he's killed hundreds of enemies stronger than this boy should be. Mark sees it coming, lets it happen. Conquest's arms lock around Mark's torso, begin to squeeze. Mark's ribs start to compress. He can feel the pressure building. In the original timeline, this is where he panicked, where desperation and pain made him sloppy. Not this time. Mark drives his thumb into the nerve cluster beneath Conquest's prosthetic shoulder, the exact point where flesh meets metal, where Viltrumite neural tissue connects to hydraulic controls. In a pure-blood Viltrumite, this cluster is hyper-developed, controls the micro-adjustments that make flight possible in three-dimensional combat. Hit it perfectly, and the entire left side seizes up. Conquest's grip releases. His left arm goes limp, nerve seizure cascading through muscle fiber. He gasps, not from pain, from shock, from the impossible knowledge this child has about Viltrumite physiology that even most Viltrumites don't know. Mark spins behind him, grabs the prosthetic arm with both hands, plants his foot against Conquest's back, pulls. The prosthetic tears free. Not cleanly. The bolts rip through flesh. The connection socket shatters. Oil and hydraulic fluids spray in an arc. The smell of burned meat and machine lubricant fills the air. Conquest screams. It's not a roar, not a battle cry. It's pain, pure and simple. The kind of pain he hasn't felt since the Ragnars, since the Scourge, since the last time he was actually vulnerable. Mark tosses the prosthetic aside. It crashes into a building, through a building, comes out the other side and embeds itself in the asphalt 3 blocks away. You should have reinforced the mounting, Mark says, lecturing. Professorial, I noticed the weak point during our second fight. Well, the fight we would have had. The Coalition engineers repaired it with titanium alloy after I broke it the first time. But you never made it that far in this timeline. Conquest spins. One-armed now, left arm still limp from nerve damage. But he's not done. Viltrumites don't stop, don't surrender, don't break. He comes at Mark with everything left. Headbutts, kicks, attempts to bite Mark's throat like a cornered animal. Pure berserker rage fueled by 5,000 years of never losing. Mark dismantles him systematically. Conquest throws a wild left hook. Mark catches the wrist. Hyperextends the elbow backward. The joint bends the wrong way. Ligaments snap. The bone doesn't break. Viltrumite bones don't break easily, but the joint is destroyed. Conquest tries to fly upward. Escape to regroup. Mark grabs his ankle, swings him down like a hammer. Conquest impacts the ground. The crater is 40 feet deep. The shockwave shatters windows for 3 blocks. Conquest tries to bite Mark's throat, get his teeth into something vital. It's worked before. It's killed opponents stronger than this boy. Mark grabs Conquest's jaw with both hands, forces it open, wider, wider, until the mandible dislocates with a wet crunch. Conquest's mouth hangs open at an obscene angle. He can't close it, can't even speak properly. And through it all, Mark is talking. You want to know the difference between you and me, Conquest? Mark slams the old Viltrumite's face into the pavement. Asphalt cracks. You fought for 5,000 years, but you've never learned. Every battle is the same for you. Overwhelm with strength, terrify with brutality, crush anything weaker. He lifts Conquest by the throat, stares into his working eye. I've spent 500 years fighting Viltrumites stronger than you. Faster than you. Smarter than you, I killed Thrag himself, the only being you've ever feared, by dragging him into the sun's core and ripping his throat out with my teeth. Mark's voice drops, goes quiet, intimate. You are nothing to me. He releases Conquest. The old Viltrumite collapses, one arm missing, other arm shattered, jaw dislocated, ribs cracked, right eye swelling shut, the one that could still see, bleeding from a dozen internal injuries that would kill a human but just hurt like hell for a Viltrumite. Conquest tries to stand. His legs won't cooperate. Tries to fly. His flight stabilization is compromised from the nerve damage. Mark circles him. Slow. Patient. A predator deciding whether to end it or make it last. Kneel. Conquest's working eye finds Mark's face, tries to glare, tries to show defiance, but all that comes out is a garbled sound through his broken jaw. None. Fourth vertebrae. Not hard enough to sever it, that would end this too quickly. Just hard enough to force compliance. Conquest's legs buckle, he collapses forward onto his knees. The position of submission, of surrender. The position Conquest has forced 10,000 enemies into before killing them. Now he's the one kneeling. Mark grabs Conquest's hair, jerks his head up, forces him to look. Eve and Oliver are watching. Horror on Eve's face, shock on Oliver's. Behind them, civilians emerging from cover. Emergency workers frozen mid-rescue. News helicopters that arrived during the fight, broadcasting this to the world. Everyone is watching. Look at them, Mark says. Loud enough for everyone to hear. You came to Earth to judge me, to test whether I was worthy of the Viltrumite Empire. So here is my answer. Steps back, spreads his arms. The Viltrumite Empire is a relic. Thrag is a tyrant clinging to a dead emperor's legacy. And you, Mark gestures at the broken warrior kneeling in front of him, you are a cautionary tale I will use to teach the universe what happens to those who threaten my world. Conquest's remaining eye widens, understanding finally breaking through the pain and shock. This isn't just a defeat, this is humiliation, public, deliberate, designed to send a message that will echo across the galaxy. Mark walks toward him, reaches into the shattered chest plate of Conquest's armor, rips out the communicator device, a compact disc embedded near the heart, still blinking with an active connection. Mark holds it up, examines it. Open channel to all Viltrumite command vessels. Authorization, Conquest, Field Executor. The device beeps, connects, static crackles, then voices, confused, demanding to know what's happening. This is Marcus Grayson. Mark's voice is calm, absolute, grandson of Emperor Argal, son of Nolan Grayson, rightful heir to the Viltrumite Empire. Silence on the other end. Then chaos, multiple voices shouting, denying, demanding proof. Conquest has failed. Mark aims the communicator's visual feed at the kneeling Viltrumite. Lets them see, lets them watch their second strongest warrior, broken and bleeding in the dirt of a planet he came to conquer. Your second strongest warrior came to Earth to force submission. He is now on his knees before me, crippled and defeated. Let this be the first lesson. He pauses. Lets that sink in. I am broadcasting this to every Viltrumite warship, every occupied planet, every soldier of the Empire. I want there to be no confusion about what happens next. Angry now, one louder than the others. A general demanding explanation. I am the bloodline of Argal, the true heir. Grand Regent Thrag's reign is illegitimate. He has known of my lineage and concealed it to cling to power he never deserved. I hereby challenge Thrag for the throne. He has 30 days to bring his forces to Earth. If he refuses, he is a coward unworthy of leadership. If he accepts, I will end him as I have ended Conquest. Conquest makes a sound, wet, garbled through his broken jaw. Y-ya, ka, k, th. Can't defeat Thrag? Mark looks down at him. I already have. Just not in this timeline. Confusion in Conquest's eye. Incomprehension. It doesn't matter, Mark continues. What matters is this. He grabs Conquest under the chin, forces his head back, exposes the throat. The visual feed is still broadcasting, still showing everything to every Viltrumite in the Empire. Let this be the first and final mercy I show the Viltrumite Empire. Your old way ends here, your violence, your conquests, your reign of terror. It all ends with me. Mark looks directly into the camera feed. To the Viltrumite soldiers watching, you have a choice. Bend the knee to the rightful emperor or share Conquest's fate. He pauses. To Thrag. I am waiting. Then, in one smooth motion, Mark places both hands on Conquest's head, one on the jaw, one on the crown. The old Viltrumite's working eye goes wide, realizes what's about to happen, tries to struggle. Can't. Too broken, too damaged. Mark twists. The crack echoes across the ruins. Loud, final, definitive. Conquest's body goes limp. The light fades from his working eye. 5,000 years of conquest end in a Chicago crater with the whole universe watching. Mark releases the corpse. It collapses forward, face first into the rubble. Mark looks into the communicator one final time. 30 days. Cuts the feed. Silence. The kind of silence that follows atrocity, that follows declarations of war, that follows the moment when everything changes and can never go back. Eve breaks it first. Her voice is small, shaking. "Mark, what did you just do?" Mark turns to face her, and his voice is different now, not cold anymore, but carrying weight. 500 years of decisions and consequences compressed into a tone that's gentle and terrible at the same time. "What I had to." Oliver steps forward. He's trembling, trying to be brave, trying to understand. "You killed him." "Yes, but we're heroes." Mark kneels down to Oliver's level, looks his brother in the eye. "I know what I just did seems wrong, cruel, maybe even monstrous." His voice is soft, patient. "But in 30 days, Thrag is going to bring 50 Viltrumites to Earth to kill everyone you've ever known. If I don't stop him, if I don't stop them, this entire planet dies. Every human, every animal, everything." He stands, looks at Eve. "I need you to trust me, both of you. I know things I shouldn't know. I've seen futures that haven't happened yet, and the only way to save this world is to be the emperor they fear more than they fear Thrag. Mark, you're scaring me." "Good." Mark's expression softens slightly. "Just slightly. You should be scared, because what comes next is going to be worse." He looks down at Conquest's corpse, at the pool of blood spreading from the broken neck, at the evidence of what he's become. Much worse. 24 hours after Conquest's execution, Mark Grayson stands in front of a mirror in his bedroom. The room hasn't changed. Same posters on the walls, same desk cluttered with textbooks he'll never finish, same bed he hasn't slept in for 3 days. But the person in the mirror has changed. Physically, he looks the same. 18 years old, athletic build, dark hair, blue and yellow costume that Eve repaired with her powers because his was shredded. The bruises from fighting Conquest are already fading. Viltrumite healing factor at work. But his eyes are different, older, colder, the eyes of someone who's lived 5 centuries and stopped counting the bodies. Debbie Grayson appears in the doorway, his mother. She's holding a cup of coffee she's not drinking, just holding it, like she needs something to do with her hands. "Mark," her voice is careful, "there are people here, from the government. They want to talk to you." Mark doesn't turn from the mirror. "Tell Cecil I'll be down in 5 minutes. "How did you know it was?" "Because it's always Cecil." Debbie lingers in the doorway, watching her son, trying to find the teenager she raised and the stranger wearing his face. "Mark, what happened yesterday? What you did to that Viltrumite? His name was Conquest. That wasn't you. That wasn't my son." Now Mark turns, looks at her, and Debbie takes an involuntary step backward. Not from fear, from recognition. Because for just a moment, Mark's expression is exactly like Nolan's. The face Nolan wore when he told her the truth about Viltrum, about what he was, about what Mark would become. "Mom," Mark's voice is gentle, "I love you, but you're right. That wasn't the son you raised. That was the son Dad's species created. And for the next 30 days, that's who I need to be." He walks past her, down the stairs. Debbie doesn't follow immediately, just stands there, holding her coffee, watching her son disappear into something she doesn't recognize. Cecil Stedman is waiting in the living room. He's not alone. 3 GDA agents in tactical gear are positioned at the exits, not threatening, just present, ready. Cecil himself looks exactly like he always does. Black suit, eye patch, cigar unlit but present. The man who's seen too much and decided the appropriate response is to see even more. He looks up when Mark enters, studies him for 3 seconds, then dismisses the agents with a gesture. They leave. The front door closes. It's just Cecil and Mark. "That was quite a show yesterday," Cecil says. "It was a message, to Thrag, to everyone." Cecil pulls out a tablet, taps the screen, turns it to face Mark. The video plays. Conquest kneeling, Mark's hands on his head. The twist, the crack, the body falling. "This has been viewed 800 million times, Cecil says. "It's trending on every platform. The UN is calling emergency sessions. Russia and China are mobilizing their militaries. Half the world thinks you're a hero. The other half thinks you're the next threat we need to contain." "What do you think?" Cecil pockets the tablet. I think you killed a 7-foot-tall alien warrior in single combat after he'd conquered nearly 500 worlds. I think you did it in under 2 minutes with technique that suggests training you couldn't possibly have. And I think you broadcast his execution to an interstellar empire that now knows exactly where Earth is and exactly how strong you are. I think I'm trying to decide whether you just saved the world or doomed it. Mark walks to the window, looks out at the street. Normal suburban morning. People walking dogs, kids riding bikes. They have no idea what's coming. In 30 days, Thrag arrives with 50 Viltrumites. If I hadn't challenged him, he would have come anyway, eventually, when we were unprepared, when we had no warning. At least this way, we control the battlefield. We, Cecil repeats. You're assuming I'm going to help you. You don't have a choice. If Earth falls to the Empire, the GDA ceases to exist. Everyone you've sworn to protect dies. You'll help me because it's the only logical option. Cecil's expression doesn't change, but Mark can see the calculation happening behind the eye patch, the weighing of options, the acceptance of an inevitable conclusion. What do you need? Evacuation of coastal cities, full military mobilization, and I need you to take me to Robot. Cecil goes very still. Why Robot? I'm going to stop it before it starts. The silence stretches for 5 seconds. 10. Cecil's hand doesn't move toward his weapon, doesn't signal the agents outside. He just stands there, processing. What makes you think Robot is planning anything? Mark turns from the window, meets Cecil's eye. The same way I knew Conquest's prosthetic had a 3-second delay in the hydraulics. The same way I knew his right eye was blind from a Ragnar attack during the Scourge Crisis. The same way I know that you have DA, Sinclair in Sublevel 9 creating Reanimen, and that you've been using them in Black Ops for the past 8 months. Cecil's jaw tightens. Beyond classified, there are maybe 6 people on the planet who know about Sinclair. I'm someone who's lived through the consequences of every decision you're about to make. And I'm telling you, Robot needs to be monitored. Take me to him. Now. Or I go through every wall in the Pentagon until I find him myself. Cecil stares at him, then pulls out his phone. Makes a call. This is Cecil. Authorization Omega-7. I need transport to the bunker. Immediately. Tell Robot we're coming. He hangs up, looks at Mark. If you're wrong about this, the GDA bunker is 60 feet underground. Reinforced concrete. Blast doors. Enough security to make Fort Knox jealous. Cecil and Mark descend in an elevator that moves too fast and stops too suddenly. The doors open into a laboratory that looks like it was designed by someone who thinks in equations instead of aesthetics. Everything is white, sterile, functional, holographic displays floating in midair, robotic arms assembling something in the corner. The air smells like ozone and ambition, and in the center of it all, on a pedestal designed specifically for this purpose, is a glass cylinder containing a human brain. Rudolph Connors, Robot, the greatest mind on Earth living in a jar because his body was born twisted and useless. The jar swivels. A mechanical eye focuses on Cecil and Mark. The speaker crackles. Mark, Cecil. I wasn't expecting visitors. Is this about the Conquest situation? I've been analyzing the fight. Your technique was remarkable. The way you targeted the prosthetic's hydraulic response time suggests knowledge of... I know what you're planning, Mark interrupts. The lab goes quiet, the robotic arms stop moving. The holographic displays freeze. I'm sorry, what? The contingency plans. The backup systems. The preparations you've been making in case humanity needs... guidance. Mark's voice is calm. Not accusatory, just stating facts. The Invincible War showed you how fragile everything is, how chaos can overwhelm good intentions. You've been running probability matrices, calculating optimal governance structures, planning for the day when you might need to step in. Robot's mechanical eye doesn't blink, doesn't move. But Mark can see the calculations happening. The risk assessment, the decision tree branching into 1,000 possible responses. Cecil. Robot's voice is very calm, very controlled. I don't know what Mark thinks he's discovered, but I can assure you, I'm not here to accuse you of treason, Mark says. I'm here to tell you that the path you're considering leads nowhere good. I've seen it in another timeline. You convince yourself it's necessary, that humanity needs protection from itself. You're wrong. To grow. Not a benevolent dictator, no matter how intelligent. I would never, you would. Given enough fear, enough crisis, enough belief that you're the only one who can save them. Mark's voice softens. But I'm not going to let it get that far. I'm asking you, as someone who respects your mind, don't go down that road. Focus your genius on helping, not controlling. For manipulation, finding only certainty. You're different, Robot says quietly. Since Conquest, since yesterday, this isn't who you were. No, this is exactly who I needed to become, and I'm asking you not to make the same mistake. Cecil steps forward. Robot, I've known you for years, trusted you with resources and authority most people would kill for. If Mark is right, if you've been planning contingencies that involve overriding civilian governance, I need to know. Now, probability matrices, calculating optimal responses to existential threats. Some of those responses require centralized authority, rapid decision-making unconstrained by democratic process. He pauses. But they're theoretical. Emergency protocols, nothing more. Because the moment you start thinking of them as practical options is the moment you become the threat you're trying to prevent. Robot is quiet for a long moment. Then, very well, I'll purge the contingency files. But Mark, if another crisis comes, if Earth faces extinction again, don't expect me to sit idle while democracy deliberates us into oblivion. I'll expect you to help save the world, just not by ruling it. Mark turns, walks toward the elevator. Cecil doesn't follow immediately, just stands there looking at the jar containing his most valuable asset, trying to reconcile what he just learned with everything he thought he knew. Mark, Robot calls out, if you really know the future, does it get better? Does humanity survive what's coming? Mark pauses in the elevator doorway, doesn't turn around. That depends on the choices we make right now. Choose better. 48 hours after Conquest's execution, Mark stands on a beach in the Pacific, uninhabited island, no witnesses, just sand and surf and the volcanic mountain rising from the center. He's here for Dinosaurus. The scientist hasn't revealed himself yet, still working in secret in his hidden laboratory built into the volcanic caldera, still planning the catastrophe he thinks will save humanity. The Pacific Ring of Fire activation, the forced flooding of coastal cities, the mass extinction event disguised as environmental salvation. In the original timeline, Mark tried to stop him. They fought, and then, eventually they became something like allies, worked together, built something that was supposed to help. It didn't help. Dinosaurus's genius was matched only by his conviction that he knew better than everyone else, that his vision of the future was the only correct one. Mark can't afford that risk. Can't afford the possibility of being swayed, of being delayed, not with 28 days until Thrag arrives. He descends into the volcanic caldera. The heat would kill a human instantly. It just makes Mark uncomfortable. He flies deeper, following the tunnels, following the faint vibrations of machinery. He finds the laboratory 300 feet down, carved into solid rock, filled with equipment that shouldn't exist for another decade. Dinosaurus is brilliant. Insane, but brilliant. The creature itself is hunched over a holographic display showing the Pacific Rim, marking eruption points, calculating casualty projections. Completely absorbed in his work, Mark doesn't announce himself, doesn't give a speech, just grabs Dinosaurus by the throat and flies straight up. The scientist thrashes, tries to claw at Mark's arm. His enhanced strength is formidable, would be a threat to most heroes. Mark has fought beings who could crack planets. Dinosaurus might as well be a child. They break through the caldera. Into open air, Mark keeps flying, higher, higher into the thin atmosphere where oxygen becomes scarce. Dinosaurus' struggles weaken. His lungs can't process the thin air. His brain starts shutting down from hypoxia. Mark looks at him, at the dying scientist who wanted to save the world and would have killed billions trying. I'm sorry, Mark says. Means it. You wanted to help, but your solution would have destroyed everything you were trying to save. Dinosaurus' eyes focus on Mark, trying to understand, trying to speak, can't. Not enough air. Mark releases him. The scientist falls, 60,000 feet. Terminal velocity, the impact when he hits the ocean is catastrophic. The body doesn't survive. Mark watches until he's sure, then flies back to the island, uses kinetic impact to destroy the laboratory, flies into the equipment at maximum speed. The collision creates an explosion, shatters everything, destroys every hard drive, every backup, every piece of research. When he's done, the laboratory is rubble, and Dinosaurus' plan dies with him. Mark flies away from the island, doesn't look back, can't afford to feel guilty, can't afford to second guess. 30 days is not enough time to prepare for Thrag. Every hour matters. Every decision counts. And some decisions require sacrifices. 72 hours after Conquest's execution, Mark stands in Earth's orbit, looking down at the blue marble that's his home, the planet he's sworn to protect, the world that's about to become a battlefield. He's about to leave it, because there's one more thing he needs to do before Thrag arrives. One more piece to put in place. He needs to rescue his father. Mark Grayson is imprisoned somewhere in deep space. In the original timeline, Mark learned this from Alan, learned that his father survived, that there might be hope for redemption, for reconciliation. But right now, Mark doesn't know for certain. Conquest's words were ambiguous. Your father's fate is unknown to you. It could be a lie, could be misdirection, could be truth. Mark has to find out, has to know. Because if Nolan is alive, Mark needs him, needs his strength, needs his knowledge of Viltrumite tactics, needs every advantage he can get, and more than that, despite everything, despite the betrayal, despite the violence, Mark needs to know his father didn't die alone in some Empire prison. He accelerates, passes the moon in 30 seconds, Mars in 3 minutes, breaks into sustained relativistic flight using techniques he learned over 500 years. Not true FTL. Viltrumites can't do that without ships, but close enough. The journey takes 3 days subjective, 3 days of searching, 3 days of following rumors and checking coordinates from his future memories. Coordinates that might not be accurate in this timeline, that might lead nowhere. But on the 3rd day, he finds it. Nexus Station appears as a dark blot against the stars. Massive orbital facility, rectangular, brutal architecture, no aesthetics, just function. Viltrumite military prison designed to hold high-value prisoners. Mark doesn't slow down. He hits the outer hull at Mach 50. The impact creates an explosive decompression. Alarms scream. Guards scramble. Mark punches through bulkheads like they're paper. Heads straight for the detention wing. Guards intercept. Try to stop him. They fail. Mark doesn't kill them all. Doesn't have time for systematic execution. Just incapacitates, breaks bones, ruptures organs, leaves them gasping in corridors while he moves deeper into the facility. The detention wing door is reinforced steel, 6 feet thick. Mark punches through it. The chamber beyond is dark. Heavy containment field crackling across the entrance. And inside, chained to a wall with energy restraints, is Mark Grayson, his father. Nolan looks up. His beard has grown long, unkempt. His costume is torn, dirty. There are scars on his face that weren't there before, evidence of interrogation, of torture. His eyes widen. Mark, what do you need to run, It crashes into the far wall, embeds itself 3 feet deep. Dad, we're leaving. Mark, there are too many guards. You can't, I already did. Mark grabs the energy restraints. They're designed to suppress Viltrumite's strength, to drain energy to make escape impossible. Mark tears them apart with his bare hands. Nolan stares. How did you? The facility's self-destruct sequence activates. Automated response to a breach this severe. They have 90 seconds before the reactor core goes critical. Mark grabs Nolan. Hold your breath. What? Mark flies them through the walls. Out into space, the vacuum hits Nolan. He gasps, realizes his mistake, holds the breath he has left. Behind them, Nexus Station explodes. Nuclear detonation. The fireball expands, catches up to them. Mark accelerates, outruns the blast wave by microseconds. They're safe. In open space, a Viltrumite patrol is pursuing, but Mark outpaces them easily. When they're clear, Nolan pulls away from Mark's grip, floats in space, stares at his son. Mark, what happened to you? You're fighting like you've done this before. I have. That's impossible. You're going to think I'm insane. Try me. Mark takes a breath, lets it out slowly. I have the memories and experience of my future self. 500 years in the future, I became emperor of the Viltrumite Empire. I reformed it. I killed Thrag. And then my consciousness was sent back to this moment, right when Conquest arrived. Nolan is silent for a long time, processing, analyzing, looking for signs of delusion, of mental breakdown, of lies. That's impossible. I know Argal is your father. I know you're the true heir. I know Thrag has hidden this from the Empire to maintain his power. I know the Coalition perfected the Scourge virus as a weapon. I know Alan is going to get captured and upgraded. I know Thetis founded the Coalition. I know. How could you possibly know these things? Because I lived them. Because in another timeline I watched you become a leader after I died. I watched Oliver grow up and become a warrior. I watched Eve age while I stayed young. I watched the Empire fall and rise again. I know what's coming, Dad. And I know how to stop it. Nolan studies Mark's face, his eyes, looking for the son he raised, finding something else, something older, harder. You're not lying. No. Nolan is quiet for a moment, then nods slowly. Then we have an advantage. Where are we going? They've been at war with the Empire for... They will when I prove I know the future. When I give them information only someone from that future could have. Father and son, flying toward the Coalition capital, toward the alliance that will decide the fate of Earth. Tailskria is beautiful in the way that things built by consensus usually aren't. The Coalition capital world is a patchwork of architectural styles from hundreds of species. Crystalline spires next to organic hab domes. Floating gardens above brutalist command centers. It shouldn't work. Somehow it does. Mark and Nolan approach from orbit. The defense grid lights up immediately. Targeting arrays tracking their every movement. Weapons charging, ready to fire. A voice crackles over the communicator built into Mark's costume. Unidentified Viltrumites. You have entered Coalition space without authorization. Power down and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire. Nolan tenses. Mark, we should. Alan, Mark says into the communicator. Calm, certain. It's Mark Grayson. I need to speak with Thetis. Immediately, it's about the war. Mark Grayson from Earth? What are you doing in Coalition space? And who's that with you? My father, Nolan Grayson. I broke him out of Nexus Station. We need to talk to Thetis. Now, it's urgent. More silence. Longer this time. Mark can imagine the conversation happening on the other end. Alan arguing with his superiors, trying to convince them this isn't a trick, that Mark can be trusted. Finally, you're cleared to land, Bay 7. But Mark, come in slow. Any sudden moves and the defense grid will vaporize you. Understood? Understood. Controlled. Landing in Bay 7 where a dozen Coalition soldiers are waiting with weapons drawn. Various species. Bipedal. Quadrupedal. One that looks like it's made of living crystal. And standing at the front, unarmed but ready, is Alan the alien. He looks different than Mark remembers. Smaller, weaker. This is Alan before his upgrade. Before the Coalition scientists rebuilt him into something that could fight Viltrumites on equal terms. Right now, he's tough, durable, but not a threat to a trained Viltrumite warrior. Alan's three eyes focus on Mark, then on Nolan. His expression is complicated, surprised, wary, hopeful. Mark, I heard about what you did to Conquest. The whole galaxy heard. Alan pauses. Is it true? Did you really kill him in single combat? Is that real too? Yes. Alan looks at Nolan. And you broke your father out of a Viltrumite military prison. You've been busy. I have 27 days until Thrag arrives at Earth with 50 Viltrumites. I don't have time for small talk. I need to see Thetis. Alan exchanges glances with the soldiers, then nods. Follow me. But Mark, Thetis isn't going to just take your word for this. He's going to want proof. Evidence, something that shows you're not just a Viltrumite trick. I know. That's why I'm here. The Coalition Council chamber is designed to intimidate. Massive, circular, seats rising in tiers like an amphitheater, representatives from 200 worlds watching from above. Judging, and at the center, on a raised platform, stands Thetis. He's old, ancient by Viltrumite standards, survived the Great Purge, survived the Scourge virus, fought in wars before Earth had cities. His face is a roadmap of scars. His eyes are the cold gray of someone who's seen civilizations burn. He's also wearing Viltrumite armor, old style, pre-Empire, because Thetis is Viltrumite himself. A secret Mark is about to weaponize. Thetis studies Mark and Nolan as they enter. His expression is unreadable. Nolan Grayson, I did not expect to see you free. We had been planning a rescue operation for months. You saved us the trouble. His eyes shift to Mark. And you must be the half-breed who killed Conquest, the one who challenged Thrag for the throne. I'm Mark Grayson, grandson of Emperor Argal, and I'm here to offer you an alliance. Murmurs run through the assembled representatives. Shock, confusion, anger. The idea of an alliance with Viltrumites, any Viltrumites, is heresy to species that have suffered under the Empire for millennia. Thetis raises a hand. Silence falls. An alliance. Between the Coalition and a Viltrumite who claims to be Argol's heir. That's bold and foolish. The Coalition has been at war with the Viltrumite Empire for longer than your species has existed. Why would we ally with you? And when he's done with Earth, he's coming for you. For Tailskria. For every Coalition world. The Empire has decided the Coalition is too much of a threat to tolerate. Thrag is going to end you, unless we end him first. Thaddeus's expression doesn't change, and you think you can stop him. You, a half-breed child barely out of adolescence. I know I can stop him because I've already done it, in another timeline. The murmurs return. Louder now. Disbelief. Mockery. Thaddeus steps forward. Explain. Mark takes a breath. I have memories from the future. 500 years I became Emperor of the Viltrumite Empire, reformed it, ended the conquests, made peace with the Coalition, and I killed Thrag, dragged him into the sun and ripped his throat out with my teeth. Silence, the kind that comes before violence. Then Thaddeus laughs. It's not a pleasant sound. You expect me to believe that? Time travel? Future memories? This is the best deception the Empire could devise? It's not a deception. I can prove it. How? Mark looks directly at Thaddeus, holds his gaze. You killed Emperor Argol. The chamber erupts, shouts, accusations, denials. Thaddeus's hand moves toward the weapon at his side. The Coalition soldiers raise their guns. Nolan's eyes go wide. Even he didn't know this. Thaddeus's voice cuts through the chaos. Silence. Everyone stops, looks at him. Thaddeus's expression is dangerous. What did you say? You heard me. You killed Emperor Argol, stabbed him through the skull, started the civil war that led to the Great Purge. You've been hiding it for thousands of years. But I know, because in another timeline you told me yourself, right before Thrag decapitated you during the Battle of Viltrum. Thaddeus draws his weapon, points it at Mark. You're lying. Am I? Then why did you react? Why not just deny it? Why not laugh it off as the ravings of a delusional child? Mark doesn't move, doesn't flinch. You killed Argol because you thought he was a tyrant, because you believed the Viltrumite Empire needed to end. You were right about that, but killing him didn't end the Empire. It just made it worse, made it brutal, made Thrag. Thaddeus's weapon is shaking just slightly. How could you possibly know this? I also know you've perfected the Scourge virus as a weapon, that you have it stored in a secure facility on this world, that you were planning to use it against the Viltrumites during the war, and I know it won't work the way you hope. Mark steps closer, into the weapon's firing line. I know Alan is going to get captured next year, that the Coalition scientists will rebuild him, make him strong enough to fight Viltrumites. I know that if you don't help me now, everyone in this chamber dies when Thrag brings the war to Tailskria. Thaddeus stares at him, the weapon steady now, aimed at Mark's heart. You're asking me to believe in time travel, in impossible knowledge, in prophecy. I'm asking you to make a choice. Help me stop Thrag at Earth, where we control the battlefield, or fight him here where millions of your citizens die in the crossfire. Mark's voice drops. I'm giving you a chance to finish what you started when you killed Argol, a chance to actually end the Viltrumite Empire's reign of terror. Don't waste it. 20. The entire chamber holding its breath. Then Thaddeus lowers his weapon. If you're lying to me, I will kill you myself. I'm not lying. Give me something I can verify. Something only someone from the future would know. Mark thinks. What can he reveal that's provable now? What piece of information exists in this timeline that Thaddeus can check? Send a scout ship to Sector 9. Empty space, supposedly. You'll find Viltrumite forces staging there. A forward operating base they've hidden from your sensors. It's been there for 6 months. They're planning an offensive against your outer colonies. If I'm lying, you'll find nothing. If I'm telling the truth, you'll find proof that I know things I shouldn't. Then nods to one of his aides. Do it. Send a stealth reconnaissance ship. If there's anything in Sector 9, I want to know immediately. He looks back at Mark. This will take 3 days. If you're wrong, I'm not wrong. Because I've already seen how this plays out. The only question is whether we write a better ending this time. 3 days later, the reconnaissance ship returns. The commander's report is grim. Viltrumite forward operating base in Sector 9. 12 ships. Supply depot. Staging area for offensive operations. Everything exactly as Mark described. Thaddeus watches the surveillance footage in his command center. Mark and Nolan stand beside him. Alan is there too. and other coalition leaders, all of them watching proof that Mark was telling the truth. Thetis turns off the display, looks at Mark. You were right. About Sector 9. About the hidden base. He pauses. I'm starting to believe you might be right about the rest. Then help me. Mobilize the coalition fleet. Bring everything you have to Earth. We make our stand there. Together, and if we lose, we won't. Because I know Thrag's tactics. I know how he fights. I know his weaknesses. And I know exactly how to beat him. Thetis is quiet for a long moment. Then, the coalition will mobilize. 200 ships, thousands of soldiers, everything we can spare. But Mark, his voice hardens, if this is a trap, if you're leading us into an ambush, I will make sure you die slowly. Understood, but it's not a trap. It's the beginning of a new era, one where Viltrumites don't conquer, don't enslave, don't terrorize, one where the Empire serves instead of rules. 27 days after Conquest's execution, Mark stands in Earth's orbit. Below him, the planet is ready. Coastal cities evacuated, military forces mobilized, coalition fleet positioned in defensive formation. 200 ships, the largest armada ever assembled to defend a single world. Eve flies up to join him. She's wearing her costume, ready to fight, ready to die if necessary. You don't have to be here, Mark says. Yes, I do. This is my world too. If things go wrong, you're the last line of defense. You can manipulate matter at the atomic level. You're the only one who might be able to turn the tide. Then I'll turn the tide. Mark looks at her, really looks, memorizes her face, just in case. Eve, if I don't survive this, you will. But if I don't, tell my mother I love her, tell Oliver to be better than me. Tell everyone that I tried. Eve takes his hand, squeezes. Tell them yourself, after you win. Mark squeezes back, then releases, turns his attention back to the sky and waits. Noon, Eastern Standard Time. The sky tears open, not gradually, not slowly. One moment it's normal. The next, reality is ripping apart, warp signatures. Massive, 50 of them. 50 Viltrumite warships drop out of faster-than-light travel. The fleet is enormous, ancient, terrifying. Ships that have conquered worlds, that have ended civilizations. All of them here, all of them ready for war. And at the head of the fleet, standing alone in the vacuum of space, is Thrag. He's exactly as Mark remembers. 6'6", muscles like living granite, white hair and white mustache, red and white uniform. And on his belt, mounted like a trophy, is a skull. Argol's skull. The Grand Regent's voice booms across every frequency, every channel, broadcasting to Earth and the Coalition fleet simultaneously. Marcus Grayson, you dared to challenge me. You dared to claim my throne. You dared to execute one of my enforcers and broadcast it to the Empire. Pause. Deliberate. Theatrical. I have come to show the universe what happens to those who defy the Viltrumite Empire. Mark flies forward, alone, past the Coalition fleet, into the space between the two forces. Stops 100 meters from Thrag. Thrag. Right on time. The Grand Regent studies him, takes in the costume, the confidence, the complete absence of fear. You came. I wasn't sure you would. Did you think I'd run, hide, hope you'd forget? Thrag smiles, cold, cruel. No, you're Viltrumite. Cowardice isn't in your blood. Foolishness, perhaps, but not cowardice. Behind Thrag, 50 Viltrumites emerge from the fleet. Anissa, Lucan, other warriors whose names Mark remembers from 500 years of Imperial history. All of them watching, waiting. Behind Mark, the Coalition fleet holds position, weapons armed, ready. You've made quite the spectacle of yourself, Thrag continues, killing Conquest, freeing your traitor father, allying with the Coalition, claiming to be Argol's heir. It's almost impressive, almost. It's all true, every word. I am Argol's heir. Nolan is his son, which makes you a pretender, a regent who was supposed to find the true bloodline and step aside. Instead, you hid the truth, clung to power that was never yours, ruled an empire you had no right to lead. Murmurs run through the Viltrumite ranks. Some look uncertain, others angry. Even the most loyal are processing this claim. Thrag's smile vanishes. Lies. Argol's bloodline died with the Scourge virus. I searched for survivors personally. Found none. You found Nolan. You knew what he was, who he was. And you hit it. Sent him to Earth to get him away from the Empire, away from anyone who might test his blood and discover the truth. Prove it. I will. After I kill you, your corpse will be proof enough. You want single combat. Very well. I will tear you apart with my bare hands, and then I will exterminate every living thing on this pathetic planet. Try. Fist like a meteor. The shockwave alone would pulverize buildings. The impact creates a visible explosion even in vacuum. Mark meets him head-on. The collision generates a flash of light visible from the planet's surface. Both fleets rock from the force. Debris from nearby asteroids shatters into dust. They grapple mid-flight. Thrag's strength is overwhelming. This isn't Conquest. This is the strongest Viltrumite alive. The warrior who has never lost, who has killed more enemies than Mark has seen battles. Thrag drives his knee into Mark's solar plexus, the same pressure point Mark used on Conquest. But Thrag barely flinches when Mark tries it, knows the technique, has defended against it for millennia. You think I have the same weaknesses as that broken fool? Thrag headbutts Mark. The impact makes Mark's vision white out. I am not Conquest. I am not your father. I am the strongest being in this galaxy, and you are about to learn what that means. Thrag follows up with a combination, 3 strikes in rapid succession, each one devastating. Mark's ribs crack, his jaw dislocates, blood fills his mouth. Mark is sent hurtling backward, crashes through a coalition ship, out the other side. The ship explodes. Hundreds of soldiers die. Mark stabilizes. Blood in his mouth, his ribs are already healing, but slowly. Too slowly, Thrag charges again, and Mark realizes something terrible. He's outmatched. Badly, in the original timeline, when Mark fought Thrag, he was older, more experienced, had years of additional combat training, had the physical development of a mature Viltrumite, had Eve's reality-warping power boost near death. Now he's 18, in a teenage body, with teenage strength. The knowledge is there, 500 years of it, but knowledge doesn't help when you're too slow to execute, too weak to follow through. Thrag is going to kill him, unless Mark adapts, unless he stops trying to match strength with strength and starts using what he actually has. Technique, tactics, willingness to fight dirty, and allies. Thrag comes in for another strike. Mark doesn't meet it. Dodges, slips the punch by millimeters, targets Thrag's left knee, an old injury from a fight centuries ago, healed but never quite perfect. The strike lands, precise, perfect. Thrag's knee buckles. Just for a microsecond, but it's enough. Mark follows up. Rapid-fire strikes to pressure points. Nerve clusters, old injury sites, not trying to overpower, trying to disrupt, to destabilize, to make Thrag fight his own body. It's working. Thrag is slowing, not much, just enough to notice. He's not used to this, not used to opponents who know exactly where to strike, who have studied him for centuries. You fight well, Thrag says. There's something in his voice. Not quite respect, but acknowledgement for a half-breed. Better than I expected. They exchange blows. Thrag lands 3 for every one of Mark's. But Mark's strikes are targeted, calculated. Each one compounds the damage. They crash into Earth's atmosphere. The friction ignites the air around them. They're 2 meteors falling, still fighting, still trading blows as gravity pulls them down. They impact in the Nevada desert. The crater is 3 miles wide. The explosion registers on seismographs globally. Mark stands first, barely. His left arm is broken, 4 ribs cracked, internal bleeding. His healing factor is working overtime, but he's taking damage faster than he can repair it. Thrag rises slower. One eye is swollen shut. His left leg isn't supporting his weight properly. Blood pours from a dozen wounds. He looks like he's been through a war. But he's still standing, still dangerous. And Mark knows he can't win this alone. Nolan, Mark's voice carries. Now, the Grand Regent stumbles, didn't expect the interference, turns to face this new threat, and Mark uses the opening, grabs Thrag in a joint lock, the same one he used on Conquest. Hyperextends the elbow. Thrag roars, tries to break free, but Nolan is there, holding his other arm, father and son working together. You need help to defeat me? Thrag's voice is mocking despite the pain. The great challenger, the heir of Argol, requiring his traitor father's assistance. I need Earth to survive, Mark says. Pride means nothing if everyone I love dies. They wrestle. Thrag against both Graysons. The Grand Regent is still stronger, still faster, but he's fighting two opponents who know each other's movements, who have trained together, who are willing to sacrifice everything. Thrag throws Nolan off, breaks Mark's hold, grabs Mark by the throat. Enough games. You die now. He raises his fist. This is it, the killing blow, and then something impossible happens. Coalition weapons fire, concentrated beam weapons, 50 ships targeting Thrag simultaneously. The energy strikes his back, burns through his armor, doesn't kill him, he's too strong, but disrupts his focus, makes him stumble. Mark uses the opening, breaks free, grabs Thrag's head with both hands, and this time he doesn't hesitate, doesn't hold back, uses every ounce of strength, every technique, every desperate tactic. He twists, not hard enough to break Thrag's neck, that would take more strength than Mark has, but hard enough to damage the vertebrae, to compromise Thrag's mobility. The Grand Regent bellows, pain and rage and disbelief. Nolan is there, grabs Thrag from behind, locks his arms. Mark, finish it. Mark doesn't think, just acts, grabs Thrag's jaw, forces it open, wider, the mandible dislocates, then breaks. Teeth scatter, blood sprays. Thrag's scream is wet, garbled. He tries to fight, tries to break free. But he's fighting two Viltrumites, coalition weapons fire, exhaustion, and accumulated damage from targeting his old injuries. For the first time in his life, Thrag realizes he might actually lose. Mark doesn't give him time to adapt, grabs Thrag's head, slams it into the ground, once, twice, 3 times, each impact creating a deeper crater. Thrag's struggles weaken, his movements become sluggish. Blood pools beneath him. Mark stands, steps back, looks down at the Grand Regent of the Viltrumite Empire, broken and bleeding in a Nevada crater. Behind him, the Viltrumite fleet watches. Their strongest warrior, their emperor, defeated. Mark's voice carries across every frequency. I am Marcus Grayson, grandson of Emperor Argol, and I have defeated your Grand Regent. He grabs Thrag, drags him upward, flies them both back into orbit. The Coalition fleet and Viltrumite forces are still in position, still watching. Mark holds Thrag up, displays him to both fleets, shows them the Grand Regent defeated, broken, humiliated. A Viltrumite warrior flies forward, female, young. Anissa, she looks between Mark and Thrag, processing what she's seeing. You claim Argol's bloodline. Prove it. Give us your blood. Let our scientists verify your claim. Mark releases Thrag. The Grand Regent falls toward Earth, crashes somewhere in the desert below. Alive but broken, defeated but breathing, Mark extends his arm. Test me. Run your genetic analysis. A Viltrumite scientist approaches, draws blood, runs it through a portable analyzer. The process takes 3 minutes. 3 minutes of silence, both fleets watching, waiting. The scientist looks up. Her face is pale, shocked. It's true. His genetic markers match the records we have of Emperor Argol. He is of the royal bloodline. Anissa stares at Mark, processing, understanding what this means. Then, slowly, she kneels. Hail the blood of Argol. One by one the other Viltrumites follow. 50 warriors kneel in space, bowing to the heir they were supposed to serve all along. Mark looks at them, at an empire kneeling before him. The empire is changing, starting today. No more conquests, no more enslavement, no more extinction of weaker species. Viltrumites will become protectors, defenders. We will use our strength to help, not to harm. He looks at the Coalition fleet, and we will do it in alliance with the Coalition partnership, not dominance. Together, we will build something better than either of us could alone. Nolan flies forward, lands beside his son, places his hand on Mark's shoulder. My son speaks truth. I am Nolan Grayson, son of Argol, and I name Marcus Grayson as Emperor of the Viltrumite Empire. Let any who dispute this speak now. Silence. No one speaks, no one challenges. The war is over, and the universe has changed. 5 years later, Mark stands in the Hall of Emperors on Viltrum. The planet has changed. Where monuments to conquest once stood, now there are schools, gardens, memorials to species the Empire once destroyed. The hall itself is different too. The statues of previous emperors remain, but they're labeled now with their crimes, their failures, They're victims, a reminder of what the Empire was, what it must never be again. At the center of the hall, a new statue is being erected, not of Mark, of Conquest, kneeling, a memorial to the old ways, a reminder of what was ended. The inscription reads, "Here knelt the last warrior of the old empire. His defeat marked the end of conquest and the beginning of service." Nolan enters. He's older, grayer. The years of helping Mark rebuild the empire have taken their toll. "It's a good memorial," Nolan says. "It's a necessary one. People need to remember what we were, so they never become it again." They walk together through the hall, past statues of emperors who conquered worlds, who built an empire on blood and terror. "Do you ever regret it?" Nolan asks. "The choices you made? Dinosaurus. The guards you killed, the violence you used to prevent more violence." Mark is quiet for a moment. "Every day, but I'd make the same choices again, because the alternative was worse. Was billions dead? Was Earth conquered? Was the Empire continuing its reign of terror for another 1,000 years? They stop at the entrance, look out at the planet below, at the cities rebuilding, at the species that once would have been enslaved now living free. "You saved the universe," Nolan says. "Remember that, when the guilt gets heavy. When you question yourself, you saved more lives than anyone in history." Mark nods, but he doesn't fully believe it, can't fully believe it, because he remembers the faces. Conquest's shock, Dinosaurus' confusion, the guards at Nexus Station, every person who died so others could live. Mark, Eve's voice from the entrance. She flies in, still beautiful, still the woman he loves. The coalition ambassadors are here. They want to discuss the new trade agreements. "I'll be there in a minute." Eve leaves. Nolan prepares to follow, but Mark stops him. "Dad, do you think it was worth it? Everything we did, everything we became?" Nolan looks at his son, at the Emperor who saved the universe by being willing to do what needed to be done. "Yes, because you didn't just change the Empire, you changed what it means to be Viltrumite, showed that strength doesn't have to mean conquest, that power can be used to protect instead of destroy, even when peace requires violence to achieve, especially then." They stand in silence, Emperor and father, two Viltrumites who chose to be more than their species demanded. Mark thinks about Conquest, kneeling in that crater, broken and humiliated, the execution broadcast to the universe. He thinks about Thrag, defeated, imprisoned, watching the empire he built crumble and reform into something he would have hated. He thinks about every choice he made, every sacrifice, every moment of ruthlessness that kept him awake at night. And he thinks about Earth, still standing, still free, protected by an empire that serves instead of rules. Was it worth it? Mark looks out at the universe he saved. "Yes," he says quietly, "it was worth it." And far below Viltrum's surface, in a medical facility designed for the Empire's most dangerous prisoners, Thrag lies in a containment chamber. His broken jaw has healed wrong, his body scarred from wounds that will never fully fade. He doesn't scream, doesn't rage, just stares at the ceiling, thinking about the half-breed who defeated him, the child who ended an empire, and he wonders if Mark Grayson truly won, or if becoming emperor to stop Thrag means Thrag won after all. But no one asks Thrag's opinion anymore, because the age of conquest is over, and the emperor who ended it stands in a hall of dead tyrants, promising himself that he'll never become what they were, even if it costs him everything. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.